Things fall when it's rain or snow. That makes sense. We're used to it. But sometimes rather odd things rain down. These are 20 terrifying things that fell from the sky.
Number 20. Hailstones. Hailstones consist of solid ice and form inside thunderstorm updrafts. Rain is carried upward by the thunderstorm updrafts into cold parts of the atmosphere where it freezes. But the hailstones don't always stay the size of raindrops. Sometimes they collide with liquid water drops and form layers and layers of clear and cloudy ice. When they become too heavy for the thunderstorm updraft, gravity pulls them down to Earth. If the hail is driven by wind and has a chance to form layers of ice, it can have a devastating impact on the area it hits. It can destroy house roofs and cladding, break windows, damage cars, and even injure or kill people and animals. The largest hailstone ever recorded was in Vivian, South Dakota on June 23, 2010. It weighed 1 pound and 15 ounces and measured 8 inches in diameter and 18.62 inches in circumference. Generally, though, hailstones are compared to everyday items rather than measured. The most common hailstones are the size of peas, mothballs, and pennies, but they can also be as large as golf balls, tennis balls, and even grapefruit. Like this video, smash the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Now, it's time for the odd topic. Let's talk about this ball. Look at it. Look at it. If the stories we've been told are true, this thing fell from the sky. Utterly horrifying. Look at the devastation it's caused. Imagine how awful it would have been to be crushed by this thing. Smashed into oblivion. Yikes. This fell from the sky in China during an earthquake. Presumably it was knocked off the top of a very tall building or something. Terrifying. As always, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below using the hashtag #OddTopic. Number 19. Frogs. I can think of few things as traumatic as going about your business only to be hit by a rain shower of not rain, but frogs. A frog shower, to be exact. How on earth does anything other than liquid and frozen liquid come out of the sky? Well, as rare as it is for frogs to rain down on us, it can happen, and does. Probably just not in the way you expect. Now, bear in mind that most frogs weigh very little. Some are just a few ounces. And if you can think about how powerful a water spout or watery tornado can be, you'd realize that they're simply no match. Tiny tornadoes, known as waterspouts, can form over bodies of water, usually caused by high-pressure systems. There's a low-pressure tunnel within a high-pressure cone in the middle of the waterspout, allowing it to pick up low-weight items. If this was a land-based tornado, it would pick up things like cows and cars, but water-based ones can pick up frogs and other creatures that happen to be in the water. Those tiny creatures end up in the vortex that moves from the water to across land. Eventually, the storm begins to lose its energy and will release some of what it's carrying. Often, that means frogs are dropped randomly all over the place. Number 18. Apocalyptic cloud. We can learn a lot about what weather to expect just by looking at the clouds. A cloudless sky often means a good day ahead, while a dark cloud might mean rain is on its way. But what if you spotted this cloud in the sky? A large red tornado or meteor-shaped one that just hung suspended in the sky. You might think that your town was about to be hit by a devastating meteor blowing everything to smithereens, or you might believe a tornado was about to hit. In 2017, residents of the Brazilian city Teixeira de Freitas were not sure what to do or think when they saw such a cloud hanging over their city. While eerily beautiful, it was also quite menacing, and people stopped to take video footage and photos of it from a petrol station where it seemed to be the most present. Some say it looked like a meteorite, while others were convinced that it was a cloud that was about to become a massive tornado. People stopped in their tracks, while others decided to remain indoors in case the ominous cloud posed a threat. Fortunately, the cloud didn't pose a threat. It broke apart within 5 minutes, and meteorologists said it was just a dust cloud. Number 17. Boiled bats. There are plenty of terrifying things in Australia, like poisonous snakes, spiders that want to kill you, and even poisonous birds. But I'm struggling to think of anything more terrifying than dead, boiled bats falling from the sky. If you're scared of how bats look when they're alive, you're probably going to be scared of how they look when they're dead and falling on top of you. It's quite a sad story, but in 2017, a heat wave in New South Wales caused hundreds of bats to die. They were battling temperatures exceeding 111 degrees Fahrenheit or 44 degrees Celsius, and the bats were having a hard time. According to colony manager Kate Ryan, the weather conditions caused them to basically boil. She said the heat affects their brains, which become fried, and they become incoherent. Out of most of the 200-plus bats to die in the heat wave, most of them were, sadly, babies. Rescuers said the situation was dire. They were piling up the bodies to perform a head count, but they were unable to reach many of the dead still stuck in trees. It wasn't all bad news, though. Rescuers worked tirelessly to get as many pups as possible and provide them with fluids, so they were able to save quite a few lives. Number 16. Water spouts. As you might know by now, waterspouts are rotating vortexes of water and spray that form over bodies of water. They can form over ponds, lakes, and rivers, but they are also quite common in oceans. Seeing one waterspout can be a memorable experience, but imagine seeing 6 in one place. Frank Leday in the Gulf of Mexico captured incredible footage of at least 6 waterspouts towering high into the sky with a backdrop of dark, ominous storm clouds. At the time, severe storms were hitting the region with hail, so it was probably not unexpected that the weather gods were going all out with their weather events. At the time, the U.S. National Weather Service was also predicting 2 tropical depressions in the Caribbean and the North Atlantic. These were thought to possibly develop into hurricanes once they hit the Gulf. If that happened, it would be the first time that 2 separate tropical storm systems formed in the basin at the same time in over 6 decades. Number 15. Black stones. We've experienced a lot in the last few years, and Italy has undoubtedly had more than its fair share of horrible events. But one of the latest was at the start of 2021, when the most active volcano in Europe, Mount Etna, erupted. When that happened, it sent huge plumes of orange smoke into the sky and a fountain of lava cascading down the mountain. Catania Airport in Sicily had to close permanently, and residents in the village of Padara had to contend with more than just smoke. They were also experiencing volcanic stone rain. According to resident Letizia Olivieri, he had never seen anything like it in his entire life. Big chunks of black volcanic stone were raining down indiscriminately, causing chaos in the streets. In total, around 8 villages were affected by the lava stones, but no injuries or severe damage had been reported. All villagers could do was watch as lava flowed down the volcano's crater. After one day, a 10,000-meter or 33,000-foot high column of ash and lava had formed. To be fair, though, the villagers probably aren't exactly shocked about what happened in 2021. Mount Etna erupted so much over a 6-month period in 2021 that it added about 100 feet to the volcano, making the southeast crater its tallest part. Number 14. An unknown man. Okay, so an unknown man didn't actually fall from the sky, but that definitely could have happened if the jetpack he was using somehow failed. In 2020, a pilot flying south of Los Angeles over Palos Verdes spotted a man zooming around the sky with a jetpack. Sounds like something out of the Jetsons. He managed to capture footage of the man, which adds weight to the claims that other pilots have made about spotting that same man previously. 2 separate pilots told control tower workers that they had seen a man using a jetpack about 3,000 feet above LAX. A China Airlines flight crew also claimed that they saw someone with a jetpack at about 6,000 feet near the same airport. The FAA was already investigating the 2 previous incidences, so they would probably look into this third one. It's currently unknown whether it's a legal test flight with a manufacturer near Los Angeles, or if someone's just taken it upon themselves to go for a quick getaway in the sky. However, some sources have stated that jetpacks have short ranges and aren't equipped for dense airspace thousands of feet in the air. Jetpack Aviation CEO David Mayman told CBS that the current jetpack technology would make sightings unlikely. He said they'd run out of fuel and use it too quickly. He also said that if it were a real jetpack, people would hear them take off and land. He believed that if the pilots did see a jetpack, it would likely be one that someone had built themselves. Number 13. Red rain. Rain is clear, right? It's like the water that flows out of your faucets. But if you were in Kerala, India in 2001, you would have noticed something unusual about the rain. It was blood red. The strange rain started falling in July of 2001 throughout the districts of Idukki and Kottayam in the state's southern parts. While most people noticed red rain, others were convinced that the rain they were seeing was black, green, and even yellow. There were many reports of red rain for at least 10 days, and then sporadically right up until around September. When it first happened, locals remember hearing a thunderclap and a flash of light before the leaves on the trees started shriveling up, going gray, and falling off, almost like they'd been burned. The rain was also relatively localized, only falling in about a square mile for around 20 minutes. Strangely, each millimeter of rainwater had approximately 9 million red particles, and when the rain finally stopped, Kerala had experienced about 110,000 pounds or 50,000 kilograms of red particles. What on earth is going on? Well, scientists aren't entirely sure, to be fair. The Center for Earth Science Studies in Kerala wondered whether an exploding meteor caused the colored rain, especially due to the carbon, oxygen, iron, and silicon found in the red particles. However, further research determined that those particles also contained spores from a lichen-forming alga. Some of the mystery was solved in 2013 when scientists stated the spores were likely introduced through the clouds from Austria. Number 12. Spiders. Even if you love the outdoors, you'd probably quickly adjust to being a bit more indoorsy if you realized that it was now raining spiders. Imagine walking outside your home and having dozens of spiders dropping down on you. It's the experience of nightmares. In 2019, residents of Minas Gerais state in a rural part of Brazil reported raining spiders, and they had plenty of photo and video evidence to back up their claims. Quickly glance at the sky and you'd see hundreds, if not thousands, of spiders hanging out in newly created webs. Apparently, such an event is typical in the area during periods of hot and humid weather, but it being normal doesn't make it any less terrifying. João Pedro Martinelli Fonseca took some of the most widely shared videos and said the entire experience was scary and shocking. I can think of a few other words I'd add to that statement. Biology professor Adalberto dos Santos said the spiders look like they're floating in the air, but they're in a massive, giant web trying to catch prey. They belong to the Parawixia bistriata species, which typically weave webs so fine that they're nearly invisible. Those giant spiders sure aren't, though. Number 11. Angel Cloud. From time to time, you might see a cloud in the sky and think, oh, that looks like a bunny rabbit. It's quite easy to spot a cloud that forms the general shape of something else, but it's usually just the general shape. What Corey Heron saw in the sky had so much more detail than you'd expect from your average cloud. Corey was in Camden, South Carolina, when he saw a singular cloud in the shape of an angel in an otherwise clear blue sky. Realizing that no one would believe him if he just tried to retell his story, he decided to go on Facebook Live to share his experience with his friends and followers. Corey said he was dumbstruck and in shock, and he had never seen anything like it with his own eyes. He said you could see feathers, a face, and even make out some of the angel's hands. It truly did look like an angel in every single way. Corey just sat behind the wheel of his car and watched the cloud in disbelief. He told his followers that he believed the cloud was his angel. Number 10. Fish. Something fishy was going on in East Texas in Texarkana at the end of 2021. While you might think we'd just be able to ease our way into 2022 without anything dramatic happening, that certainly wasn't the case. Rather than rain falling down from the sky during a storm, there were fish. That's right, fish were slapping down on people, cars, sidewalks, roads, everything. One Texarkana resident said they were at a car dealership when they heard a crack of thunder before it started raining hard. But then he noticed a fish hit the ground, and he told the dealership workers that it was raining fish. Now, of course, they probably thought he was insane, but then they saw it for themselves. Dozens of small 4 to 5 inch fish were littering the parking lot. Another resident at a tire dealership said it was a pretty cool experience, and they collected as many as possible in a bucket to use for fishing bait. Now, as you know, fish don't just fall from the sky. Well, they clearly do, but there's a reasonable and quite sciencey explanation for it. It comes back to those water spouts. The water spouts will pick up light objects like fish and then drop them back down once the storm loses momentum. It just so happened that the water spout dropped the fish a long way from where they picked them up. Number 9. Bright blue UFO. When things fall out of the sky, there's usually a reasonable and quite often dull scientific explanation for it. But regarding a bright blue object in the sky in Hawaii, there just wasn't one available. Something blue did fall from the sky, and no one knows what it was, where it came from, and where it ended up. So many people saw the unidentified object in Hawaii in early 2021 that the Federal Aviation Administration got involved. That was after several people made calls to 911, resulting in them contacting the FAA directly. All callers said they saw a large blue object moving in the sky before falling down into the ocean. From the video footage available on the internet, it appears as if the blue thing is in the sky near Haleakala Avenue in Nanakuli. One of the witnesses, Mistina Sape, called out to her husband as she wasn't sure if what she was seeing was really there or just her eyes playing tricks on her. He could see it too, so she jumped in her car to follow it for 3 miles until she watched it fall into the water without making a sound. After the blue light disappeared, a smaller white one appeared from the same direction as the blue one. The FAA said they hadn't received any overdue or missing aircraft reports, nor did any disappear off the radar. Number 8. Airplane parts. Can you imagine the sickening feeling you'd get if you were going about your business only to have a piece of an airplane fall in front of you? You'd likely assume that there's been a plane crash and it's gonna be an utter disaster. In early 2021, several neighborhoods in Broomfield had to be taped off after several small and large pieces of aircraft started falling in people's yards, on their homes, vehicles, and in public places like parks. Some pieces of debris were so large that they crushed vehicles and seriously damaged parts of houses. Luckily, it doesn't appear as if anyone on the ground sustained injuries. But what about the aircraft? Surely it needs all those parts to fly. Well, the United Airlines Flight 328 from DIA to Honolulu wasn't far into the flight when it experienced engine trouble, as in, the engine was on fire. Several parts of the plane subsequently started falling off, but the aircraft was able to turn around and fly back with all 10 crew and 231 passengers safely disembarking unharmed. Number 7. Frozen iguanas. When winter arrives in most towns, cities, and countries, local weather stations put out alerts about what to expect. You might be warned to take care on the roads due to the black ice, or stay at home if a snowstorm's on the way. If you live in Florida, you might be told to watch out for falling iguanas, cause they can hurt. It seems absolutely insane, but when temperatures plummet in this normally warm part of the country, the iguanas really struggle to keep living their best lives. Iguanas are cold-blooded, and the outside temperature can dictate their body temperature. When the weather is cold, the iguanas can start to become quite sluggish, and when the weather gets even colder, they just freeze. If they happen to be in the trees at the time, which is often the case, they aren't able to maintain their grip and will just fall out. They'll still have all their bodily functions and keep breathing, but their bodies go into protection mode until the weather warms back up again. However, if that cold weather continues for quite some time, the iguanas can die. If you live in an area with high iguana populations, it's a pretty good idea to stay away from the trees when the mercury plummets. Otherwise, you might end up with an iguana-shaped bruise on your head or dent on your vehicle. Number 6. A strange object. Plenty of weird things can happen when you're sound asleep, and you can be none the wiser since you're safely tucked up in bed. Although a man from Tadpole Garden Village in Swindon, UK, was probably one of the few people to see something very unusual in the sky at around 4:40 a.m. one morning in early 2022. Adelini Barros was returning home early one morning midweek when he spotted a stream of light in the dark sky. He wondered whether it might be something on his windscreen, but when he pulled over and exited his vehicle, he could still see it in the sky. He was able to get a reasonably decent photo of it and also a video recording on his phone. When he returned home, Adelini was still in shock about what he had seen. He and his daughter, Sarah, immediately started trying to find out if anyone else had seen what Adelini had seen. He thought it might have been a meteor, as it looked like it had flashing flames before disappearing behind houses in the distance. Although Adelini wasn't 100% certain, since it had flashing dots and didn't appear to melt as it traveled. He also said it was slow moving with the flashing lights for about 20 seconds before he lost sight of it behind houses. Number 5. A weird cloud. Do you remember the book Henny Penny, The Sky is Falling? The characters really did think the sky was falling, and even as kids, we knew better than to believe it was. But residents in Ducala, Morocco might be questioning if that author was onto something when they discovered huge clouds falling from the sky into the streets in 2016. They probably weren't actually real clouds, but many people were confused to see massive, foam-like clouds randomly scattered around the area, covering vast parts of the landscape, roads, and private properties. Some of the clouds were absolutely huge, while others were just tiny wisps of some kind of foamy material. One of the clouds even floated away over a road barrier. It wasn't immediately known what those clouds were, but people enjoyed sharing a range of theories. Some believed they resulted from government weather manipulation, while others speculated it was just sea foam. A few even suspected alien manipulation or chemtrails. Meteorologists claimed the material was artificial foam, since clouds can't actually settle. Although not everyone was convinced, and it's still a little bit of a mystery. Number 4. A purple substance. Purple rain, I only wanted to see you bathing in the purple rain. Well, one couple was certainly not about to be bathing in the purple substance they woke to find splattered all over their home and property. Lynn Page and Mike Holpiao from Cheektowaga, New York were more than mystified when they awoke one morning in late October to see their deck, driveway, vehicle, and house cladding covered in purple, blotchy muck. They had no idea where it had come from or what it was, and wondered whether it might be an accidental toilet discharge from a plane, since they would often fly over their home on the way to the nearby Buffalo Niagara International Airport. Lynn was concerned for her health since she had no idea what the purple substance was or what it might contain. She said that it could be toxic or could be full of COVID or anything. Although an NFTA spokesperson said dumping toilet waste while flying was prohibited, and it's likely that the purple mess had actually come from a flock of birds. Sometimes, birds eat berries that contain a high volume of pigment. Their poop changes color, and if they're flying in a huge flock, then someone's gonna end up with a whole lot of purple poop on their property. This time, it was Lynn and Mike. Number 3. Locusts. Sometimes, locust infestations in various parts of the world can be so severe that you can barely see the sky or the road in front of you. They seem to take up all physical space and can decimate an entire region's crops in a matter of days. Worst of all, they are absolutely everywhere. Nearly all continents have them. While locusts do go through a solitary phase, it's clearly not a permanent phase when you see them in swarms of millions and even billions. Apparently, locusts shift from flying solo to joining swarms when they notice many other locusts of the same species nearby, and that's when they start causing chaos. In response to noticing that their population density is increasing, the locusts start becoming attracted to each other, eating more, and developing faster. Often, this happens when there's sudden rainfall. Some locust species also become migratory, which means they'll travel across borders looking for food. A previously locust-free agricultural area can become absolutely decimated without warning. In 2003, 22 countries were affected by locusts over a 2-year period, resulting in 80% of crops in those countries being wiped out. By early 2005, damage control efforts were calculated at $500 million. Number 2. Chelyabinsk meteor. The Chelyabinsk meteor was certainly one of the more exciting things to fall out of the sky in recent years. The meteor was a superbolide that entered our atmosphere over Russia's Ural region in 2013, caused by a 66-foot or 20-meter near-Earth asteroid. Everything about this meteor was incredible, right down to the intense heat, the light that shone brighter than the sun, and its vibrancy that saw it visible up to 62 miles away. Once the meteor entered our atmosphere, it exploded over Chelyabinsk Oblast in an airburst, which resulted in a bright flash, a hot dust and gas cloud, and many small meteorite fragments being thrown everywhere. But let's not forget its massive impact once it hit Earth. It created a shockwave so powerful that it produced up to 33 times more energy than what was released from the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. About 1,500 people were injured due to indirect effects like glass breaking, and over 7,000 buildings were damaged. In a stroke of luck, no one actually died, even though it's clearly one of the more powerful meteors to hit the Earth in recent years. Number 1. A flock of birds. In early 2022, residents of the northern Mexican state of Chihuahua were left confused and horrified after noticing several dead yellow-headed blackbirds on the streets. It wasn't immediately clear how they died, but video footage gave a pretty good reason why so many died at once. Nothing seems out of the ordinary on a quiet street in Chihuahua. Then, all of a sudden, a massive flock of blackbirds plummets from the sky all in one area. Most of them managed to fly off or avoid hitting the ground, but many weren't so lucky and died on impact. It was strange to see so many dead birds in one area, but what was even stranger was not knowing what caused them all to fly down to their death in the first place. Some people wondered whether they'd possibly passed through toxic fumes, while others pondered if electrocution might have played a part. However, some bird experts think a bird of prey might have been involved. A falcon, hawk, or another large bird might have entered the flock, spooked them, and caused them all to cascade downward to what they thought would be safety. As it turns out, it was probably safer just to let a bird of prey take a quick snack and be on its way again.